This is what really stuck out to me is his mind for art and the discipline to develop his practice to the point where he can express himself through his art, piano.
Yeah.
His engineering mindset, the ability to build and design and everything that goes into that process, test.
Yep.
And then his financial market, the ability to make money, but then also realize the opportunities and see things that people don't see. And so he learned this stuff, and that allowed him to really see the opportunity in buying.
Hey, we're back.
What's going on, y'all?
Back at it again with another week.
Yes.
Founders Drive, back in the building.
Yeah, talk to me about Constance, man. Where we at?
Constance, the best way to make some money online.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah, man, we've got a couple really cool things ready to go this week in terms of the social links, being able to represent yourself and your different social links, that you might see on your mini website. And then we've got some other cool stuff on the docket here in terms of letting you actually own the calendar.
Yeah.
For your bookings.
I think to kind of ground it, Constance is a platform for people that want to explore digital entrepreneurship. And basically it's a platform that gives everybody that wants to explore digital entrepreneurship a key set of tools to get started and take that first step. The number one step is having just a mini website, a link in bio, but not just stopping there, taking it to the next level where you have surrounding tools around that. So being able to set up an actual digital storefront where you can sell digital products, but not only that, where you can sell memberships, you can host a community, you can organize your thoughts behind the scenes, and you have AI to actually complement all of that. Artificial intelligence has introduced a lot of uncertainty into the market. We're seeing that with a lot of the layoffs by big companies. 48,000 from UPS this year, 14,000 corporate jobs in Amazon, 13,000 jobs globally. Hiring, the net hiring rate is at net zero pretty much. From reports by Jerome Powell, and this is just becoming a more and more evident situation, a more and more evident problem. Doesn't mean artificial intelligence is bad. I mean, we're technologists. This is stuff that we've studied. We've been in this space for the better part of 8 years, building for some of these big companies. But the uncertainty around it and the ridiculous ideas that people are introducing is a problem. And so what we're doing is we're trying to broadcast how we can, it's just a shift at the work. Before, people used to earn off of the land in the agricultural times. Then people shifted to industry, where you would go and get a job, work 9 to 5, and that's how it's been for the last 100+ years. And now we're seeing more and more people be able to move into this creator economy where we can earn off of our passions, and then communicating that to larger audiences. And it's really cool. I mean, there's a lot of opportunity there, and some of the tools that we've been releasing this week and the last few weeks represent that. We've made enhancements to that landing page by making it really easy to add different links to other pages, kind of like a link in bio, link tree type thing. But again, the real power is in all the things that you can do around that. And so that's the thing that we hope that you explore, and hope that you check out on Constance.com.
Absolutely. And then obviously there's an additional episode for this on Constance. So if you like what you hear, find some more on there.
On where?
Constance.com /u/founders drive.
Not even. Oh yeah, /c/founders drive /c.
/c.
Yes, but anyways, the link is in the description.
Yes, it is.
And that'll take you to where you can go get that information. So why don't we jump into the founder that we are exploring today?
I thought you were going to have some kind of intro, some kind of funny intro for him, but
Bernard Arnault.
I don't think most people...
The Terminator.
He did have that.
Yes, the wolf in Cashmere. They say that he has an iron an iron fist and an iron glove.
The design Pope or whatever they call it. Pope design, yeah.
He's ruthless, but he's not well known.
Mm-mm.
I first heard about him when I was listening to a Kanye rant talking about how hard it was to break into the fashion industry.
Really?
Yeah, it was actually a while back in 2014. But I didn't know the name until maybe a few years later when I heard Kanye talking about it for years. And he was basically talking about how hard it was to break through to the fashion industry. He was on The Breakfast Club and he was going on a rant and he was saying it was difficult, it was hard, he was getting roadblocked in all these areas.
Yeah.
And he was saying that for as popular and as successful as he was, that didn't translate into that fashion industry because he kept getting roadblocks by people like Bernard Arnault.
It's funny because I first heard the name when he became the richest person in the world in like 2024.
Years ago, right?
Yeah,
and with a net worth over $200 billion. And he's like, they say that he makes software margins on physical goods. That's what the luxury industry is.
Yes.
Software margins on physical goods. And margins for a robust software company when it gets
at scale,
is 80% margins. I mean, that's what you're looking. So if you're making that off of a physical good,
it's insane,
right?
Absolutely insane.
So, yeah, man, the wolf in Cashmere. But that's when I first heard him, is when I heard Kanye talking about him. And for somebody who's bulldozed his way into the music industry, he's found success in the fashion industry, of course. But it's different. I mean,
there's levels to this,
right? And after doing more research on Bernard Arnault, I mean, I'm just scratching the surface. He's a very private guy.
Yes.
There's not much out there on him intentionally, but he is somebody who's formidable, and he's not apologetic about it. It's his game plan. And
he wants to win.
And he wants to term. I mean, he has the nickname is the nickname is the Terminator, and it's not just the Terminator for a reason. And so people, when I hear Kanye talk about him, having more context now, I'm thinking, I see.
Yeah.
I see where why he had that reaction and where that reputation for Arnault comes from.
Yeah, and he wasn't always that way. Obviously, he's had a lifetime to get to where he's at now. So we can kind of rewind the clock a little bit and kind of go into what made Bernard Arnault such a powerhouse. From the stuff I was able to do some my research on, he was born in 1949 in France. I think there's a specific town in France that'll come up later. But
let me fill in some details right there.
Because I think he went back there and ended up building some kind of design architecture. But
it's Roubaix. Roubaix
with an X in there, right? Yeah. There's like an X in the name,
yeah.
But yeah, born in 1949.
Roubaix.
Okay. He was born in France, 1949. Let's see, went to, I think it was an early prep school or like an early private school. In the 60s, he graduated and came out of that school in the early 70s, and he started working at his father's construction company in the early 70s. That I don't think they saw a whole lot of success in the construction business, but Bernard was really keen on pointing them towards real estate development. And I think in the late 70s, he actually took the helm of that company, and after pointing them towards that real estate development kind of action, they saw a lot more success.
Yeah.
And just a lot better of a company when they were doing that work as opposed to when he wasn't involved doing all the construction.
Yeah. And just sticking around this origin story for a little bit. His father was the engineer of the family in construction, etc., and his mother was a classical pianist, which is something that Arnault, he went to school and I think he was trained in classical piano, but he eventually decided that he wasn't good enough to be a concert pianist. And so he ended up applying himself to his studies more, but he's always been a studious person from the jump. Like at a young age, he grew up in, I think, a very strict household, just very strict upbringing. And he was very disciplined, but that was also his natural interest. Like he was somebody who was always very studious, wanted to learn, wanted to understand. There's a time where a little bit later, in college, I think people were picketing and the schools were closed, and he was like, I can't go to my lectures and learn. And so he was very, very and this is something that, you know, is present throughout his whole career. He's always the brain in the room, but from a young age, he was very intentional about developing his skills, and so he recognized that. Kind of reminds me of Paul Graham, who at a young age,
13, 12, I should be watching TV.
Yeah, like, what am I doing? It's the same thing with Arnault. He's very, very.
And you also touched on a really key piece, which is the fact that, and this will come up again later, because this is one of the, for me, things that I really liked about it was, oh my gosh, look at that.
Yeah, he was big gingerbread man. Yeah.
He was like,
it's like the gingerbread man from Shrek.
He was like, yeah, like, I like to win. Like, that's something that you'll see as a common theme throughout his entire life. He likes to win, and he realizes that you can either have talent or you can work really hard. And he goes, I didn't have as much talent, so I had to work really hard.
Yeah. And people would say, like, he's talented, but I think that's the thing that just, it's something that I've never really bought.
The fact that you could, like, skate by with talent, or what?
The fact that you can, that it's just talent, and not just that you can skate by talent, but when people look at people and they say, oh, that person's just talented, that's true.
They attribute it
but
to
it's not, that's not really the successful driver. It's the hard work that people have around their talent.
Right.
There are a few people that have reached the mountaintop off of talent, and I will go as, I'm pretty resolute in thinking that there's almost no one that stayed at the top with talent alone.
Yeah, correct.
You know?
Absolutely.
Like, I almost say, like, there's few people that have gotten there without an extreme amount of hard work. Yes.
Yeah.
Talent has definitely put them in a situation where they can take the chances and take the shots, but you don't see success, especially over a sustained amount of time, without skill. And skill is a product of hard work and talent.
100%. Yep.
You know?
So I know that was in the 70s where he actually, like, turned around his father's business into the real estate development. And then if we move into the 80s, I don't know if you have anything to add there, but the 80s is where he moved to America and started actually studying titans of industry. And just really figuring out, okay, how do Americans do this in terms of hostile takeovers or you know, board seats, in terms of how can I stack the deck so I get what I need out of this company transaction. A lot of things were happening in the 80s in American business. He learned a lot from that. And in, I think it was 1984-ish, the parent company of Christian Dior, Christian Dior?
Christian Dior.
Christian Dior?
Christian Dior.
Christian Dior was up for sale.
Yeah.
They went, they were totally upside down in terms of bankruptcy and debt and everything like that.
Yeah.
And so I think he ended up paying like £1 for it, but I had to like settle all the debts. So it was like a symbolic, like, I'm going to take on this company and try and turn it around. But that was the parent company, and they were losing a lot of money. And so he came in here, and like Tendo, you were saying, the Terminator kind of got his little moniker there, because he ended up firing, I think, 9,000 employees.
Selling off some of the assets for profits.
Yeah. And just really streamlining and getting it down to the most basic fundamentals of that business, which he was able, after I think it was about 2-year restructuring, in 1987-ish, he was able to get that company to profit $100 million off of $1.9 billion in revenue, which is incredible. That you pay a single franc or a single dollar for a company, and they're like, yeah, they're just like, nobody could figure this out, and he was able to figure it out.
Yeah.
Obviously terminating a lot of people, but it's kind of wild to me that a lot of business people turn that opportunity down. There was a company before him that tried to turn it around and just couldn't, because they tried to keep all the employees, they tried to keep all the factories. And so it's just interesting how he came in there, was like, yeah, I'm not going to try and keep this huge, gigantic thing going. I'm going to strip it down to the bare bones and get it profitable.
Yeah, that's probably the most notable move that he made, just because it was his first move into the luxury goods space. Before that, he was real estate and it was construction. And he's a really interesting mind, because he's an artist and he's an engineer.
Right.
And I've talked about this on this before. I have a mentor who sees those as two distinct paths of life. And I think they can be very complementary. I think we don't often see people who are artists and engineers, but when I look at somebody like Arnault, you see that in him. But the thing that's also very interesting is he's also a very savvy financial mind.
Yes.
Early in his career, he was mentored by a guy named Antoine something, and he basically taught him the ins and outs of finances, all in the financial markets, the way to understand it, read a balance sheet, all these different things, and these little techniques and tricks that people can do to leverage the designs of companies to create leverage and spot opportunities and grow companies. We can maybe get into some of that stuff in the Constance episode, in the more technicals around some of that stuff, because there's so much power in being able to just read a balance sheet and understand what's going on there. And so if you look at these three different areas, this is what really stuck out to me, is his mind for art and the discipline to develop his practice to the point where he can express himself through his art, piano. Yeah. His engineering mindset, the ability to build and design and everything that goes into that process, test. Yep. And then his financial market, the ability to make money, but then also realize the opportunities and see things that people don't see. And so he learned this stuff, and that allowed him to really see the opportunity in buying the holding company for Christian Dior. It's like the company was a textile company. Yeah. Christian Dior, I think, they had 3 stores. They were making like the equivalent of 90 million revenue, but they didn't have any profit. They were in debt. So that's why they bought it, and he had to settle the debts. But then he took it to a place right now where they have like 300, 400 stores worldwide today, making billions of dollars. But yeah, it's like that financial savvy, I think, is a really important aspect of it, because you see that in the structure of LVMH today, Louis Vuitton, Moet, Hennessy. That's true. Which is the owner of 60 subsidiary luxury brands.
Yes, and that's important. Luxury brands.
The luxury brands. And so when we go back and we talk about that area in the 80s when he made that move into Christian Dior was a big thing. And there's a story about him early on in his career where he was I think in a country overseas, and he was riding around with somebody and he said, "Do you know the French prime minister?"
So that was in 1980s. It was his trip to America.
Oh, okay. So that's coincides around the right time. Yeah. And they said,
I love that story.
Yeah. And he goes, "The only person I know is Christian Dior."
Yeah.
And he was like, "Oh, okay." So not long after, he goes up there and he buys it. So
well, that's kind of the thing, is that when he came over to America to learn from these titans, those real, and not only the Antoine guy, but also you mentioned some of the other like balance sheets, term sheets. But I also think he also learned a lot about the cap table. He goes, how can I manipulate this cap table in my favor? Yeah. And so, yeah, he was in America with a cab driver, and he asked him, like, you love France. What do you know about France? Who's the president? Who's our soccer team? Like, what do you know about France? He goes, I don't know. I just know Christian Dior. That's all I know. But yeah, that was coincidentally around the same time that he was able to purchase the company, get it profitable in the 80s. Right after that, he was looking at the business transaction that happened between Louis Vuitton and Hennessy, which is at the end of the 80s. Louis Vuitton, if anyone doesn't know, that's the luxury brand, Louis Vuitton, and was it Monet Hennessy?
Moet Hennessy.
Moet?
Yeah.
Hennessy?
Moet, yeah.
It's
Moet
the alcohol,
Hennessy,
right? Everyone knows Hennessy.
Yeah.
But they combined into a company called LVMH, which is still alive today. Bernard owns it. But back in the 80s when they merged, the chairman of that merger reached out to Bernard and was like, hey, you did a great job with this textile company. Why don't you give us some funding to kind of go into this business venture and to own some of this combined company? I think it was around 20%. I'm not 100% positive, but he did invest a sizable amount to be on that cap table. Couple of, years later, and they're working through this merger. Bernard is slowly and quietly buying up shares. He is going around and he's got this quote, what, bad boys move in silence or something like that. I don't know if it's his quote.
That's, what's his name says that a lot. Certain Dave Cerna on the Founders Podcast. Yes. But that's from Rockefeller.
I thought it was a song.
I mean, there's the Bad Boy label with Diddy, and that's a whole other thing. But the Rockefeller is, I think, the inspiration around that quote where bad boys move in silence. It's like in business, if you have an opportunity, you see an opportunity, you move in silence.
And don't tell anybody.
Yeah.
And that's something that he was doing. He was putting money to the side spending 600 million, 500 million to eventually, in about 2 or 3 years, get controlling assets of LVMH, to the point where he actually turned around and the same person that asked him to invest in the beginning, he kicked him out.
Yeah.
He was like, yo, like, I need to run this stuff. I'm the majority shareholder. Like, you need to leave. And he left.
And it's so interesting because the two founders of the Hennessy brand and the Louis Vuitton brand, they butted heads.
They did not work well together.
Yeah, they didn't, and everything was nitpicky. It was
Yeah.
like discussions that could have taken 5 minutes to resolve ended up dragging out into hours because people they just didn't get along. They ended up doing something where they were like, okay, we're now merged. We have to have a headquarters, and they were so petty that they said it has to be exactly
In the middle.
or we're not agreeing it. One of them said that, and it was just, continuously picking at each other. And so I think knowing that, and then also being in this position where you're like, I want this luxury brand, and I'm gonna do whatever I can to get it. Like, it just allowed somebody to walk in. So not only is it dumb to argue with your partner like that when you don't have to, especially at a level like that, it opens the doors for your competitors or other people to swoop in and take what you have. It's a liability to not be focusing on the things that you need to be focusing on.
It's also like a really big red flag if you're in a relationship like that. You're being that petty about these small
things that you don't have to. It's like,
honestly, like, I don't know if I see the relation between Louis Vuitton and Hennessy.
Right.
Like, to me, they're not on the same playing field.
Yeah, and I think it was like,
but it might just be me. I'm not like into luxury goods as much as some of the other people are. So,
and it seems like there might have just been like, I'm sure that there's some story around why they had to do it. Like, it was the strategic move to do it, but they didn't like each other, and so that didn't really play out in any of their favors because our good friend Bernard Arnault came in there and
that was and that was in the late 80s, early 90s, and that kind of set Bernard up to do just a complete tear through of the luxury goods industry, where in the 90s, using his power at LVMH, decided, I'm gonna need more of this. And bought, I don't know, 60, probably 40 or 50 different brands in the 90s, and he's accumulated more to the fact that now it's over 60. But some of the big names that I know that he owns, and I don't know all of these, a lot of them are, European cosmetic companies or fashion companies, but like Sephora, big one in the US, Givenchy, another like really big designer.
Pull up a list right here too.
Dude, there's so many, and I can't even pronounce some of them, to be honest with you.
There's so many I can't pronounce them. Let me
go for it if you have them.
I had like a light list here, but then it ran away here. But it's a holding company and conglomerate that specializes in luxury goods. It some of its biggest names in its portfolios. It has 60 subsidiaries that manage 75 luxury brands. Christian Dior, of course. Givenchy, Fendi.
That was recent, the more recent.
The Marc Jacobs, Tag Heuer, Sephora, Tiffany and Company.
That was also more recent. But
And then the list goes on.
It's
but
a
then
lot.
Also, a thing that's really interesting is just how they organize everything. It's these different luxury areas. They have luxury they have the luxury spirits. They have company uses blockchain technology to authenticate luxury goods. Reducing counterfeiting in high-end markets. I didn't know that. I just saw that as I was coming down.
It's that StockX play where you authenticate your things.
But it's kind of and it's kind of smart too, because the whole idea is that they're giving this promise of exclusivity with luxury.
Right.
And so you have anything that you can do to bolster that or recognition of, hey, this is exclusive. Helps ensure the brand. And Bitcoin and blockchain are designed for authentication and proof of validity.
Also shows that he's keeping up with the times, and he's not just falling and sitting on his laurels. He's actually pushing the company forward. I can't think of a single other cosmetic or fashion designer that's trying to put NFTs or blockchain in their system. You know what I mean?
I mean, he's using it for an actual purpose, not just for the NFT, but it was like, oh, okay, people are using that for collectibles. We can use that for a real purpose.
To authenticate.
Exactly, and use it on something like an underlying asset, which I think is the smart use for something like
Oh,
like
100%,
blockchain is like having an underlying thing that has value, not just using that as the underlying value.
Right. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. 100%. But yeah, in the 90s, he went on a tear and just started buying up all these luxury goods.
Yeah.
Or companies, I should say. To the point where, like you were listing off, probably 80 or 90% of all like the luxury brands that you're going to see in the store or the mall are going to be his, which is insane. Something that will come out probably in the Constance episodes that I want to talk about is when you start buying up all these creative companies that have creative visions and definitely some creative people working there. How do you lead a creative team? How do you lead creatives? And how do you actually do that effectively? So it's not like, micromanaging and or, people breathing down your neck like, hey, where's that design at? Because I feel like it's very easy to stifle creativity that way.
Yeah.
But that's just something that,
let's like earmark that.
100%.
That we can get into that.
In the 90s, that's where I feel like a lot of his empire started booming. Okay. In terms of
it's
really
like how he
getting his hooks into everything in terms of luxury goods. And then in the early 2000s, I believe it was Fendi was acquired. Right along, and this is something else that we'll talk about in the concept episode. In 2008, when we had the financial crisis, Bernard actually took that as a sign to start buying.
Yeah, he's one of those people, and it's very much like Warren Buffett in this regard, where they're sharks, man. It's like when everybody's running, they're right there. Like when everybody's running, they're moving forward. And it's one thing to say that in good times. It's another thing to do that in times like I think we're moving towards, where there's a lot of uncertainty. It's like, do you have something, or do you understand something, or do you have the leverage, whether in your mind or in the world, where you can take advantage of the opportunity?
It's not like, and it's so easy in hindsight. It's so easy to be like, of course I would have done that. It's like, but you don't have the conviction to do it in the moment.
Do you have a situation like that where everybody was running and you were like, I'm moving forward?
Let's see, like a time where, I'm trying to think of like a really good one here. I don't know if I have anything off the top. Do you have anything off the top of your head?
I think the main thing would probably be in investing. I invested in a company that it was around, it was Meta, and it was around 2020 when the pandemic started, and they were increasing in value, but then the stock dropped, specifically because Mark Zuckerberg was talking about the metaverse. That people were like, what
that's when he tried to put all that money into the metaverse.
Yeah, and he put 10 billion in there. And it was weird seeing the number drop so much, but then looking at the numbers and looking at the books, you realize that the amount that they invested in there, one was already allocated years before, so they expected and accounted for it. And two, they were making so much money.
In the bucket.
Yeah, it was a drop in the bucket. I mean, I think the numbers that some tech companies handle is unfathomable in certain respects. And so as it dropped, it took like a while for it to rebound, but obviously we can see where it is right now. It rebounded pretty handsomely. And that's the thing that comes to mind the most, is just sitting tight and seeing it go lower and lower and buying more and more, being like, okay, I'm trusting this. I'm trusting this, trusting my reads, and seeing that go there. Another one would be Bitcoin and blockchain. You remember at the office when Mike would always be like, everybody in the tech people were like, anybody that buys this is an idiot. They're so stupid. It's just going to go up. But it went up. I didn't stay in there as aggressively as some other people that I know. Right. But it was something where, I made a little coin off of it.
I think the only thing that's coming to mind, and it's not an exact one for one.
Yeah.
Is probably starting this company.
Yeah.
It's not like a one-to-one, because there's a lot of people that do it, and there's like a really easy framework to kind of like know, is this something you should be doing or not? But it wasn't like an easy decision.
No.
A lot of people were like, don't do that. Yeah. A lot of people were like, you're not ready. You shouldn't be doing this. You should go back into the workforce. And so to me, that might be one of those that strikes a little bit closer to home.
Yeah. And when I see the and this is like it was an anticipatory problem. It's not a good thing that we have a problem, but it's one of those things where it's like, it's probably going to be a problem.
Right.
What we spoke to at the start of this. It's like, there's so many companies that aren't hiring in traditional jobs.
Yes.
And I think that's a trend that's going to continue, just because there's so much more enablement for people to take their ideas and make money off of that. And that's where things are going to be moving, especially with automations that we're seeing in traditional jobs right now, where it's like the shakeup is happening, and it's just, and so I think like when I'm seeing that right now, it's when, for instance, to compare it is with the stocks, it's like, okay, everybody's saying, don't do this, don't do that, don't invest here, the metaverse is never going to happen, et cetera, but they're not looking at the actual books of what's happening, the real numbers, and the numbers don't lie.
Yeah.
You might have not have hit them, the numbers and the effect of the numbers might not have hit you or I or anything like that, but when they come, and the trends are real. And don't take my word for it, look it up. And I'm not just going to say do your research abstractly. It's like, go look at the reports that Bernie Sanders and his committee's putting out. Go look at what Jerome Powell's saying. Go look at the statements by the different companies that are laying people off. And you'll see what we're seeing, and you'll see that trend to continue. And so at this point, it's a waiting game. That's a different story though, right? It's like that still has to be executed correctly too, is when do you actually pull the cord? But if it's a big enough opportunity, Charlie Munger said this too, I'm more directional. They said that they're more directional. They're not looking for the exact printout reports of the exact returns.
Signals.
Which irritates me so much when I hear people ask me those questions. Because I'm like, you're not studying the greatest founders and entrepreneurs, because they don't look for that stuff. You're looking at the wrong things. But they're like, we move in the direction. And if you're directionally right, the returns are so astronomical that it covers for any like exact projection miscalculation that you might have had.
100%.
And so that's like the one thing. But I also know that you've timed some stocks pretty well. Like, I've talked to you about that.
I have, and I might put that on that super secret drive, because I might have a couple stories on that.
Right.
But what I would say is, you're absolutely right that there are signals out there that people can consume and then act on. But if you're not willing to do that, you might just even look back in this founders drive in 2 or 3 years and just see that we were right. You miit be watching this in a couple of years, and they're like, oh wow, they were ahead of the curve. We were trying to tell you.
Exactly. Here's another thing too that's kind of taught me to trust my instincts, is the calling out the AI boom, the AI revolution. We were in here like 2017, 2018, and we would be talking about these things in our war rooms and all that stuff about what the world is going to look like after artificial intelligence is introduced in a mass way. We were reading some of these papers in 2016, or that were released in 2016, and we saw this stuff. I didn't realize the magnitude that it would have, but I knew that it was going to be a huge introduction. I was like, we're in the right place working on this stuff.
100%.
Like, and there were certain things that would happen where our manager at the time would be like, would say like, hey, I'm just going to call our team the AI team. In my mind, like, there were people that would fight that. They're like, we're not AI, we're software. I'm like, well, we are working with AI, but then also we want to be in the data science stuff, because this is where the world is going to. If you don't, not everybody saw it, but there's a feeling sometimes where it's like, this is where things are kind of going, and I kind of want to be around here.
Yeah, for sure.
You know,
I think that's, and again, that's what Bernard saw with the crises, not only in the 80s, but also in 2008. You can't sit there and say, yeah, in 2008, when the whole world was collapsing, that betting on a Louis Vuitton bag is going to be the right play. Like, no one's thinking, how am I going to afford my Louis or my Hennessy, or my Christian, like, or my Tiffany box? They're thinking, how do I pay my rent this month? And Bernard sat there and was like, this is a great opportunity for me to own more of my company and sit on this opportunity, because the world will turn around, the economy will come back, and I'll be booming like he is today.
And brands are just really strong. That's another thing we can get into on the Super Secret, is the power of brands and the power of having and how brands can create a moat. That's something that, again, Warren Buffett
specifically physical brands about. Too. Like, I think to me there's a bigger moat in physical brands than there are digital brands.
I'm gonna write down a note, because there's one specific thing that Bernard Arnault said that caused me to put together why a brand has can be such a strong moat. And it was one word that he said.
Really?
That opened up so much for me. I'm writing it down right now so I don't forget.
For sure. Yeah, to me, there's like a bigger moat in physical goods than there is digital goods. And we're seeing that with like the AI boom. A lot of these companies are being copied and pasted, especially specifically like digital companies.
Yeah. But I think digital goods are a great way to introduce your like ideas.
100%.
And it's a great way to get in and break through that you just couldn't really do before.
100%.
And I think another thing too that we're gonna start seeing is now that we talk about it with like being able to put like NFTs or using the blockchain to authenticate digital goods, that'll be another layer of
that's a great way to merge those two worlds.
Yeah.
Because it's so hard right now. If I wanted to say I wanted to go make my own luxury bag, to go and do that and have the same pedigree or prestigiousness that Louis Vuitton has.
Yeah. So keeping on that, but another thing too that like is really intriguing to me about Bernard Arnault is just again his mindset. He's very rational about the ideas of luxury goods and the way that they work, and it's a science for him. He's very understanding of human psychology and the way that we operate, and he's built his business around that.
100%.
Do you want to move over to the super secret?
We can. The only other thing I was going to touch on here with Bernard's thing is the fact that he got his family involved.
Yeah.
Like, we'll see this probably because we're going to end up having to do an episode on some of his kids. But like his family, his immediate family, his kids, I think around 5 of them, are in very executive facing roles in the empire. So I think his daughter is the CEO of one of the companies. His son is the head of PR and HR and stuff like that. Like he's building an entire legacy through his kids to be able to run the empire after he's gone, which is, I think, something that we don't see a whole lot. Like Warren Buffett's kids
about that.
aren't really ready to take the helm. It doesn't seem like, or like Elon doesn't really have a successor. Zuckerberg doesn't have a successor. Bezos doesn't have a successor, but Bernard does in terms of his family unit that he's kind of been able to level up to again take over the helm.
Yeah, we heard that quote of his son who's like, my dad just likes to talk about business all the time and calls me all the time to talk about these things. But again, it's something that he's just a very intentional person, extremely reserved and private. They said that he had a kid and nobody in his office knew about it.
Which was
wild. He was like, yeah.
I think they also said he was married. He was married and they didn't know.
Yeah.
Like what?
Just like, and they also say he's very hard to get a read on, and how he feels about other people. Very reserved, but yeah, I mean, again, this is stuff where we're exploring this stuff. We're putting it out here in the open because we want to share this. And as like we talk about people, I always find myself going back.
Yes.
And then being like, I want to go and dig a little bit more into that person's philosophy and the way that they were looking at life. So, in business.
Yeah. So this is the first of many, probably. I'm Bernard Arnault.
Yep. And yeah, let's jump over into that super secret over on Constance.
We'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Peace out.